Margaret Wheatley, Finding Our Way, Leadership for an Uncertain Time. Immerse yourself in the transformative ideas presented in Finding Our Way, Leadership for an Uncertain Time, where author Margaret J. Wheatley explores the inadequacy of Western culture's command and control approach to leadership and organizational life. Delve into the book's examination of the deficiencies in conventional thinking, such as the belief in bureaucracy, growth, and the mechanistic worldview. Discover the potential offered by embracing a living systems framework that prioritizes adaptability, creativity, and diversity. Throughout the summary, Wheatley challenges prevailing notions of control, offering insights into ancient civilizations and their connection to nature, and providing guidance on cultivating a more effective, responsive, and human-centered approach to leadership.
Breaking away from old-fashioned views of organizational life. The Western culture's conventional approach to leadership and organizational life is outdated, dehumanizing, and ineffective. The approach is based on false notions that humans are primarily motivated by greed, fear, and self-interest, that individualism is more crucial than interdependence, and that bureaucratic hierarchies are effective. In such a system, growth is prioritized, creativity is limited to only a few, and the poor are considered fundamentally different. Consequently, organizations often fail to embrace diversity, creativity, spontaneity, and self-organization, fundamental characteristics of human life. The author proposes a new model of leadership inspired by the ancient Minoan civilization, which lived in harmony with nature and viewed human beings as part of a living system rather than its center. The Greeks, who followed the Minoans, had a different perspective, seeing nature as an object for study and manipulation. These divergent attitudes have contributed to the leadership and organizational challenges present today. Ultimately, the author calls for a fundamental shift towards a more human-centered, collaborative, and inclusive approach to organizational life that embraces diversity, creativity, and natural rhythms. The flawed machine metaphor. The book argues that the Western culture has long viewed the world as a giant technological mechanism, leading people to think that they can solve problems by repairing or replacing defective parts. However, this engineering metaphor is flawed, as people and human systems are not machines. This mindset has resulted in leaders trying to change organizations by exerting domination and control, ultimately sacrificing creativity, innovation, and discovery. The author suggests that building organizations that resemble machines destroys potential human value and imaginative flexibility. Instead, it is essential to recognize that backward cultures were more sensitive to the natural world than Western culture, which only reinforces the need to overcome the old story of dominion and control. Moving from mechanical mindset to self-organizing leadership. The mechanical mindset that prioritizes individualism and solitary achievement hinders creativity and human relationships. Organizations initially grow through relationships, but over time, hierarchies and structures can impede the cooperation that led to their formation. To adapt to today's constantly shifting business environment, the self-organizing model is essential. The model recognizes the three essential elements of identity, information, and relationships, and fosters a culture of trust and initiative rather than strict control. Such leadership challenges are crucial for an organization's speed, flexibility, and survivability. Self-organizing versus traditional organizations. This excerpt explains the difference between self-organizing systems and traditional organizations using American schools as an example. Most school districts in the U.S. are created by a bureaucratic top-down hierarchy instead of being educational structures based on shared community beliefs. This disconnect from the community happens in many social institutions today. Imposing institutions on a community leads to dysfunction rather than a response to its needs. Command and control leadership is outdated, and people need to be encouraged instead of directed. Leaders must inspire their people and help them understand the organization's purpose, identity, and reason for being to foster creativity and thoughtfulness that make people proactive and self-organizing. Principles of organizational change. Organizational change requires 4 fundamental principles to be followed by practitioners. These are participation, allowances for individual differences, creation of reality, and internal connections. Organizational change is an essential component of business transformation. However, this process involves an intricate set of interactions that make it complex. There are 4 underlying principles that must be followed to ensure a smooth organizational change. First, every person involved needs to participate in the process willingly. This engagement leads to improved relationships, loyalty, and dedication. Second, directives can only trigger change, but not determine it, as each individual has a unique way of reacting to change, and it is futile to enforce uniformity. Third, companies create their reality, and every person's interpretation of it is different. Only by embracing different realities and discussing them can organizations thrive. Fourth and final, healthy systems need internal connections. In cases where a company has lost touch with its customers, restoring connections and allowing information to flow is vital in restoring the whole system's health. These principles offer a starting point for any practitioner of organizational change. Beware metrics and embrace feedback. Leaders need to be cautious in using metrics and measurements. Instead, they should rely on feedback to assess performance when possible. Feedback is more sensitive to context, flexible, and open to new information. Metrics may be necessary but should resemble feedback and be created by the people with the best knowledge of the work being measured. Such metrics are timely, flexible, and can encompass intangible aspects such as learning, teamwork, and quality. To shift from a machine metaphor to a living systems metaphor, leaders need to change paradigms, which is difficult but necessary to create purposeful institutions and organizations.
The ideas covered in A Finding Our Way, Leadership for an Uncertain Time, provide a timely reflection on the shortcomings of the mechanistic mindset in leadership and organizational life. Wheatley emphasizes the need for a living systems framework that prioritizes adaptability, creativity, and interdependence, highlighting the importance of identity, information, relationships, and collective participation. By embracing the qualities of a self-organizing system, leaders can cultivate trust, inspire innovation, and foster meaningful connections within their organizations. This paradigm shift calls for an acknowledgement and appreciation of diverse perspectives while fostering a more intuitive, adaptable, and human-centered approach to leading, ultimately creating more responsive and purposeful institutions.